guys, it's Dasha. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to today's video, which is going to be Maze Round of a Game of Tomes. This board is so awkward. If you're familiar, this is my TBR game. I play it every single month. Put that down. There will be a playlist linked down below as well as in the cards where I go over all the rules and you can see all the previous rounds. I know this is like one of the only things I've been posting lately. I am so sorry. If you follow me on Twitter, which I recommend, I kind of post a little bit about my life there, but also channel updates, just because it's the social media platform I use the most in general, like in my personal life too. And I was in a slump with booktube and I didn't want to admit it to myself or to you guys, so I just pretended that like I was busy with life, which I was, but like I also kind of hit a slump. But I'm feeling very invigorated. I'm feeling very excited to make and edit content again, which I didn't feel at first. I wasn't really happy with the things that I was like thinking of. So I know I said this last time, but there will be content coming. I'm really excited to make content again. It will be more long form, like vlogs or dedicated reviews and like specific, very niche videos, like kind of more scripted videos as well. Just things that I'm a bit more excited about that are a little bit different for me, but I think are gonna align more with where I want my channel to go. So nothing specific that I want to talk about yet, but apologies for like only posting TBRs and wrap-ups for a little bit, but there will be more coming that I'm really pumped for. As for my TBR, why don't we go over how I did in the month of April? I had this lovely stack plus Nothing But Black and Teeth. I'm trying to remember specifically what I picked for what. So I'd picked Ship of Magic for Lord Tywin to read a book with strong family dynamics. Obviously I finished it. This was for a read-along. I'll talk more about that later. We also had Blood of Elves, which is for my other read-along. That was for the wild card prompt, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously finished that. Fucking loved it. The Odyssey by Homer, which was for the prompt to read a book about or featuring mythology or religion. I have started it. I do intend to continue, so I will not take a punishment. I'll talk a bit about that as well, I guess, because that kind of relates to my grander reading plans. And finally, I had Nothing But Black and Teeth by Cassandra Khaw, which was for the prompt to read a book from a worst books of 2021 or whatever video, and obviously this is a novella, so I did complete it. So my TBR for May is technically, nope, my TBR for April is technically 100% completed, and I read a few other things, so I am pretty happy with myself. And even if you don't think Odyssey should count because I didn't finish it, I did read other books featuring religion actually, so overall I completed my TBR and I am happy with myself. I feel like my May plans, like I debated not even making a TBR simply because there's a million things I have started that I have not finished yet, and there's a million series that I want to continue and just a bunch of things I want to read. But at the end of the day, I enjoy making the TBR videos. I enjoy playing the game. It's fun. I love gamifying my reading, and it also just kind of pushes me to maybe pick up some different things that I normally wouldn't and maybe think about my reading in a different way. So I am going to continue it with only 4 prompts, and I still have 2 read-alongs to fit books into this month. It shouldn't be too bad. I'm thinking I will still have time and space to finish up books that I've already started, so there will be a TBR for this month. And it will be a little bit different, I will say. For some of the prompts, I will show you guys kind of where I'm thinking in terms of my options, simply because, again, I'm in this like weird mood reading, wanting to finish things, wanting to read like very specific things kind of mood. So for several of the prompts that I pull from the board, I will have like options instead that I will try to fulfill throughout the month rather than like set books. But I have to pick from those things that I show you for sure. So it'll make sense once we come up to it. Apologies for that. So before I keep rambling on and on, why don't we get into the first roll for the month of May? So we ended up in a location spot right over here last time, so we're gonna go ahead with our roll number 1. 2. 1, 2, House Tully, which is the jar. I've got a bunch of random prompts in here. Let's see what we get. There's 2. I'm gonna do this one. I think I've gotten a green one before. Read a book over 500 pages. Our first roll made us pick in the little jar, which is always fun, and I have to read a book that is over 500 pages, which quite frankly is not that difficult considering I have Ship of Destiny to put on my TBR. This is the third book in the Life Ship Trader series, the final book in this shorter series that's part of the Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. This is part of the Read Along I am co-hosting. It's hosted over on Beautifully Bookish Bethany's channel. We just had the live show for the Mad Ship not too long ago, and it was so much fun. I really love being able to sit down and talk about this series with people because Robin Hobb has so much shit to unpack in her books that it's really, really beneficial to kind of sit down and talk theories and explore characters and talk about like character motivations with other people. If you don't know, this is an adult high fantasy series. It is about these ships that become alive after 3 generations of their family die on deck. But there's so much more to it than that. Like the majority of this doesn't even necessarily take place on or around ships, I would say, which usually is like a big turnoff for me. I don't really like pirates and like sea stories, but this just works so well. There's so much politics, family dynamics, magic. There's just so much happening. It's such a beautiful series. The last book that I read, The Bad Ship, the second book in the series, I gave a 5 out of 5 stars to. I thought it was insane. So I am very curious to see how everyone's story is going to finish up in this. I'm just so enamored with Robin Hobb. Like I am such a fangirl at this point. This is gonna be my 6th book by her and I just can't get enough of her writing. So no matter what happens, like plot wise, I'm still gonna probably give this such a high rating because I just have so much love for her and her characters. So I'm so excited for this. All right, let's go ahead for roll number 2. 3. 1, 2, 3. We have the Dothraki Sea Pick a Seasonal Read from my own TBR. So for our next prompt, I have to pick a book that is a seasonal read from some books that I own. So this is one of the ones where I have a few options. I have a few different directions I can go, and I think it's gonna come down to what I am reading at the time that I'm ready to pick a new book up, because I'm in the middle of a couple of nonfiction books, as well as a couple of classics. And I have a few fantasy books on the TBR, so this is gonna be, it's gonna be a choice from this little stack. So first I have a classic. I have Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert. This is about a woman who gets married to a man thinking her life's gonna be like perfect because he's wealthy, but she gets really, really bored after not a long time in the marriage and she begins an affair. And apparently this book was like super controversial when it came out. Something about the drama of this feels springy to me. I can't put my finger on it, but this feels like a more lighthearted classic, I guess. It's a little bit shorter too, which is why I might read it. I just, especially if I do finish Odyssey in the month of May, which is incidentally, I feel also springy, but if I do finish it in the month of May, I probably won't want to pick up another massive chunky classic. But this one's been kind of on my mind lately. I feel like it's spring summery, so this is one of the options to fulfill the seasonal read prompt. Another one is a sci-fi. It is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, and this is what people call like hopeful sci-fi, hope punk. It is just a very positive sci-fi. It's not like, I think there's still like high stakes, but it's not like grimdark basically. And it's about a group of people on a ship that is like hurtling through space, and this ship basically bores holes across space for travel. But I think there's like a lot of personal things happening in their lives. I think that kind of hopeful aspect of it is why I feel like it's a seasonal read. I feel like this is again a spring summer sci-fi rather than like a dense political heavy sci-fi that I would read maybe in the fall winter. So I think this could be a good option. This is also on my 22 books for 2022 because I really want to read Becky Chambers. I feel like in terms of sci-fi I might enjoy her a lot since my pea brain does not do very well with like big epic battles. So I feel like this is going to be one I'm gonna try to pick up very soon, which is why this is going to be tentative for a seasonal read. And finally, 2 nonfictions that are actually both very similar. These are both relating to the fall of communism and the Soviet Union. And when I think about that whole time period, it's a time of transition, it's a time of hope and change, which I think is very springy. So these books are Dancing Bears by Witold, Polish names, Zablowski, I think, or Shablowski. And then we also have Cafe Europa Revisited by Slavinka Drakulic. So these are both about people coping with a post-Soviet Europe, especially Eastern Europe, obviously, countries that were occupied by the Soviet Union. This one is about people who miss that, because I think this one also talks about Cuba and people who just miss the stability of a tyrannical government, which I think would be really, really interesting. This one basically compares it to dancing bears who were trained for circuses back in the day, and even after they were released into the wild, whenever they saw a human, they would start like acting like they would at the circus. So that's kind of the parallel they're drawing between the bears and people who lived through tyrannical governments and how they still kind of feel a sense of attachment to that government. And this one is just a bunch of essays about people living in Eastern Europe post-Soviet times and how they are coping with it and how the changes have affected them specifically, because we often talk about changes to like economic systems, political systems, but not to the people directly. So yeah, I feel like these would both be great examples for like seasonal reads for that post-Soviet time of change and hope and I guess newness, which to me represents spring. So these are definitely two that I would want to read. All these are fairly short, which is why I am tentatively putting them on my TBR. I'm especially really hyped for these two, but again, depending on how much nonfiction I'm going to read, I might not be able to get to these or have the brain power, but I am really pumped for these. And these two as well, obviously, but it really depends how my reading goes. Roll number 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, House Stark, which is a reread. So our next roll got us onto House Stark, and that prompt is to reread a book. So for this, again, I have just a few options. My idea for this was to pick books that I needed to reread in order to continue a series, which is the rational thing to do, I think. There's a few books I wanted to reread just because they are favorites, but I think because I have so many series I want to continue, I think I really want to prioritize that. So I've got 3 options. The one I'm leaning towards the most heavily is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. I do have now Our Violent Ends. Both of these were gifted to me by Ray. Thank you so much. I am really looking forward to reading these. This is just a duology, so it'd be super simple to finish up. I could probably even get to both of these in the month of May, to be quite honest with you, which is why this is like the one I'm favoring a little bit. If you are not familiar, These Violent Delights is set in 1920s Shanghai. It is a reimagining of Romeo and Juliet, where Roma and Juliet are on 2 opposite sides of like a crime gang war, and they have to work together because there's a mysterious illness sweeping the city that is affecting both of their gangs. And it sounds kind of cliche, but I thought this was so masterfully done in terms of infusing with history and culture and socio-political issues of the time. I just thought this was so well done. For this to be a debut, I thought was just incredible. I'm really looking forward to just finishing up the series. It's only a duology, so it would be really quick to read. It is a young adult series, so I find it reads just a little bit quicker. So this is definitely one I'm favoring, and I would have to reread These Violent Delights in order to continue. I don't think I have to, I guess. I could just look up a recap, but I might as well. I quite enjoyed it, and I think it'd be best to go in with the full context of all like the political stuff happening in here in order to fully enjoy this. And I know that she has a spin-off series coming out soon, Foul Lady Fortune, that is set after these events. So I think it'd be really fun to get like a full context if I do plan on going into that one. Not sure yet if I want to read it, but I might. The other series I'm leaning strongly towards finishing, so I would have to reread Foundry Side 4 in order to get to Shorefall. This is the Founders Trilogy by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is a super cool series following Sanchia, who is a woman and a thief in this very like Medici era Florence inspired city. There's a bunch of like warring merchant families. There is this really cool magic that's kind of like coding, and it's very logic based, which I personally loved. She's hired to steal an item, and then she realizes that it's like super powerful. So there's all this crazy heist stuff happening. There's a little bit of a found family happening. The setting is just so cool, and they're not super long books. I read this 2 years ago, and I've been meaning to continue the series because right at the end of this, one of my favorite tropes in fantasy comes in, which is gods. I love gods in my fantasy, and there's something really cool that happens at the end of this, so I really do want to read Shorefall. I was waiting for it to come out in paperback, and I finally got it. And I think the third book in the series is being released this year. So if I could catch up, I could maybe finish it this year, but I do have to reread Found Your Side. So that's definitely one I'm looking forward to, and I would maybe be able to squeeze it in, depending how burnt out on fantasy I feel, who knows? But I think I would love to reread this sometime soon. It is very summery. You feel like the atmosphere in this like Florentian city. I don't know, it's great. So this is definitely on my might read list. And then the final one, I'm just gonna throw it out there in case I am in the mood, because I kind of am, but like they're lengthy boys. That's The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. I read this last June. I loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It's not even like it's a new favorite. It's just so good. It's so well crafted. This is a world that's been taken over by these like dust storms, and the evil Lord Ruler has won, and he rules over everyone and oppresses everyone. And then you have Vin, who finds this group of misfits who all decide that they're gonna go and take down this Lord Ruler. And the magic system is based on metals, and you can like push and pull and influence people's thoughts with it. It's so cool. It's so cool, but I feel like I would really love to reread it in order to fully grasp, like, and remind myself of all the political stuff that happened in this before I go into the sequel. The sequel is on my list of books that I really want to read this year, on my 22 for 2022, just because, again, I need to get better at continuing with series. I'm pretty bad at it, and these are big books, so I often feel like I don't really feel like it, or like I don't really want to do this right now. I really want to, but I'll put it off till later. The way I am dying to get to the Stormlight Archive, I think, will help propel me through this series, just so I can finish it out, have a clear ending on that, and then get into the Stormlight Archive because it's by the same author. But I feel like I have to finish this first. Anyway, so I might reread The Final Empire. That one's like less probable, but I do really want to read The Well of Ascension. So I'm just gonna throw it out there, you know, tentatively put it on the TBR. This one's just probably not gonna happen compared to the other two, but it is one that's on like my anticipated TBR, I guess, and something that I'm looking to reread soon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Our final roll got us House Martell, which is just so perfect because I was getting nervous as I was rolling, but House Martell is a free space, so we are gonna go ahead and put The Time of Contempt by Andrzej Sapkowski on the TBR. This is the second book in the main series of The Witcher, but technically it's the 4th book in the reading order because there are 2 short story collections. I am co-hosting a read-along of this. It is linked in my Twitter bio if you want like updates. I think the live show for this will be happening maybe the day I post this. Depending on when I post this, the live show for this is happening May 6th. I don't know the time yet. I think it would be 12:30 Eastern or 1:30 Eastern, but I'd have to double check that. Either way, it will be posted in my community tab. I'll repost on Twitter. You will get all the details. All my social media is always linked down below in case you guys want updates. But anyways, back to this. I am obsessed with the series officially. I'm really, really pumped for this. I think even if I didn't get it on the TBR, not only because I'm participating in the read-along, but I would want to get to this ASAP because it's insane. This is about, it's supposed to be about Geralt, who is a monster hunter in this world that's kind of reminiscent of 13th century Europe. However, I don't even think Geralt's the main character anymore. Everyone else is just so much more interesting than him, especially all the women. You've got Ciri, who is this girl that he kind of takes under his wing and starts training. You've got a couple of sorceresses who are just the most fascinating and powerful women ever. You've got Dandelion, who's his friend, who is a bard. Dandelion's just like one horny motherfucker, and he's so funny. Like, everyone around Geralt is just so much more interesting than him. I loved Geralt in the video games. He was a bit more personable. He comes off a bit less personable in the books, and everyone around him is a bit better, but at the end of the day, the found family of all of them is just the most precious thing in the world. I've just really grown to love this series. It has such a special place in my heart now. I'm fucking obsessed. The writing is just so simple, but it hits you in the gut, and the scenes of characters interacting, not even like the fights and the cool, crazy political stuff, but just the characters interacting with one another is so special, and that's what makes the relationship and their like little family so special. I'm in love. I can't wait to read this. I'm so excited to talk about it and just keep reading the series. This has definitely officially become a new favorite series of all time. There's just something so special about it for me. and I'm so excited. There you have it, friends. That was my May TBR. A little chaotic, not really set in stone, but at least you have an idea of what's kind of on my radar, I guess. For the series and the books that I put as like tentative on my TBR, if any of them you think I should prioritize, any of them that you have loved, please let me know. Maybe I would consider, you know, prioritizing the ones that get maybe a lot of responses or something. Keep your eye out for my wrap up, which will talk about all the books I read, in case you were interested in hearing my thoughts on any of those. Other than that, keep your eye out for more videos from me as well. Apologies for the little slump, but I'm very excited to be back and making stuff. Thank you for your patience, I appreciate it. As I mentioned, my social media is linked down below, as well as some videos and playlists that you can check out. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!